One mental exercise I like to do is think about what life lessons I would want to impart into my hypothetical son. And the idea is that if you had a son, you would want him to avoid the detours, some of the detours you took. And so I've already taken a number of detours, and now the exercise is basically a way of for me to see what I value and for me to see what it is I should do, because I have to do the things that I think is of sufficient value that I would want to pass on to a hypothetical son. So it's kind of like how it's like the saying how they say your relationship with the world and others is an extension of your relationship with yourself. So my hypothetical relationship with my son is my relationship with myself, which is what I'm trying to frame in terms of what values I should actually use going forward. So even though it's hypothetical, it's a good way to frame it for me to think about things I lack. And the same, it's like what I would want. So I would have to do things that I think I would want my dad to do if I were to be a dad. I would have to do things that I would want my son to do because I'm already a son. I would have to do things that I would want my son-in-law to do if I wanted to not be, single. I would have to do things that I would want. Well, I don't have a brother, but I'm a brother to my sister. So it's like, or like friends and so on. So it's like I have to figure out what I would want in someone of this relationship to me, because I'm going to be of that relationship to someone else, kind of like that. Okay, so that's my first note. Interesting facts. Another thing I learned is cardio is not good if you. Cardio is good for you, but it's not. If your goal is to lose weight, don't focus on cardio, because cardio burns calories, but it doesn't lose weight. And the reason for that is because cardio, one, the burned calories just make you hungrier, and two, your body makes itself more efficient by reducing muscle, which is what okay, so like muscle building doesn't burn as much calories, but it builds muscle which consumes calories to maintain. And then cardio doesn't do that, because we evolved to so that if we do a lot of cardio, so like if we have to be hunters and gatherers, then we become more efficient at moving around to we become able to do more cardio with less calories, because it or else we would have starved back then. So cardio makes your body less consume less calories to function, because the consumption of calories tells your body, oh my god, we need to be more efficient because we can't afford to spend all these calories, because it's evolved based on evolutionary biology. Okay, this is a topic I'm going to skip. Actually, there was a topic I was going to talk about that I put off to today last night, but I can't remember what it was. Um, okay. Yeah, it was problem solving and business or something. Okay, so it was talking about how, you know what, I'm gonna skip this today too. Let's talk about other things. Let's see. There, all none of your goals are a finish line. Like you don't. There is no goal where you just reach the finish line and you live happily ever after. Every single finish line is just a new starting line. And if you have to be aware of this, or else if you focus too heavily on a goal itself, then when you reach the goal it often creates burnout, sometimes depression, and so on. You have to understand that it's not going to be this holy grail that just is full of this elixir of everlasting life and happiness, which, I mean, it makes sense. It's just, like I think so in Tesla when I want going up to the Master Series, I was extremely focused on winning. And now obviously I knew that there was going to be it wasn't going to be the end or anything. But right after I won, I kind of got burned out in Tesla, right? It's like I wasn't burned out in life, but like Tesla wasn't as interesting for me for quite a while after because of how heavily focused I was on this short term event. And that wasn't that bad for me, obviously. So I did learn the lesson without paying the price. But if you were to do that with life, like if you're trying to run a business and you were completely focused on, like, you sacrificed all aspects of your life in your peripheral vision and only saw this one thing, and the one thing wasn't making your business grow to be have this impact, it was to make this business reach X metric on, say, financially or whatever, or like have 1,000 customers, then once you reach that, it's gonna be very basically you have to understand before you reach that the goal is just a short-term goal, and it's not the like your main the main focus. It's just a temporary goal. That's like just the difference of the how you view the goal can change the what happens after you reach the goal. So you and also after you reach the goal, you have to give yourself some time. Don't maybe like give yourself a week to just calm down or something like that. I don't actually know how it works, but Andrew Huberman talks about this. Okay. Yeah, so the other thing about the finish line is like if you were to say if your primary goal was to have $1 million in the bank account, like if you were to win the lottery for $1 million, would your life like what would you do after that? Like you it's not you can have a fantasy where you don't have to work forever, but it's like yeah, I mean your fantasy is fulfilled, but you have it's not very it's not going to be deeply meaningful. It's like if your like your goal just dropped on your table, your life wouldn't just completely be transformed. I mean, it would change your life. It would transform your situation, but it wouldn't be like okay, like obviously it'll solve your financial issues in the short term, but it wouldn't transform you as a person in the long term. So, like for example, if you were to work, and this I guess this is kind of basically like Tom Bilyeu's example. Well, like, let's say you're a boxer and you know you were a professional boxer, and then suddenly you got the world belt. Just with you didn't compete for it, you just got the belt and you're labeled as world champion. Just hypothetically, obviously this isn't possible, but like it doesn't actually it's you're not just done. You didn't win boxing, you just got the belt, and if you now if someone's going to challenge you, you're going to lose the belt, and that's the end of that. That's the end of the story. You had like this you gained the reward without the value. So it's like when you don't genuinely invest the input to get the output's not going to be meaningful to you. Like if you had a car that you worked really 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 hard to get, and it's and it, you know maybe like depending on how much money you had, maybe it was like a $15,000 car, but you got it after working very hard for it. You know, obviously it's different now. There's payment plans, but just I'm just using a car as an example. Like if you work really hard for it, you're gonna take good care of it. But if you just have $1 billion and you just buy a $3 million car, you're not gonna care that much, right? It's like obviously you're careful when you drive, but it doesn't give you the same feelings deep inside after getting the reward, because the reward of how good you feel is directly about the result is directly proportionate to how much you put in to create that result in the first place. So it's like we all want these results, and then but if we were to get the results without the investing, then it would defeat the purpose of the result. It would ruin the entire point of the result in the first place. Okay. And so, in the same vein, failure. What did I? Where did I get this quote? Okay, failure is to fail at experiencing the event, or experiencing the experience, which is, I guess, in this case. So, for example, like you didn't get the experience of working to obtain that result, so that's why you didn't succeed. Because the experience itself is what makes the reward valuable, and it's the transformation from the experience that gives you the success. Like if you wanted to build a business but you were just handed a business, you wouldn't it wouldn't really work out because you wouldn't know it inside and out the same way you would if you were to build it, and you go, oh, okay, so this part of the business works this way because these parts failed when I tried to do it this way, and you know every aspect of the business and why they are the way they are when you build it yourself. But if you're just handed a business, it's not going to be the same. You're not going to have the ability to build it up the same way because you don't have the transformation from experiencing the process. Okay. Now, okay, this is just a quote directly from the book. Radical honesty is taboo today. We call things that we don't like offensive as if it makes it false. This is just a quote, which is kind of sad, actually, that's the way things are now. Like, if you hear something you don't like, that's true. If you can hear a fact you don't like and just say like, that's offensive, or that, or whatever. Okay, let me see. Okay, so back on the topic we mentioned before, I guess. The things that you want for free without changing yourself for first won't solve your problem. You're just daydreaming and wishing, expecting something external to transform your life for the better. For example, if you feel bad, like if your life sucks and you feel bad and you just medicate. I use this example a lot because it's very easy and you can extrapolate it pretty much. Like if your business is failing, okay, I'll use this example instead because it's the same thing, and I use it now. I can use a different example so you can understand that why it's the same thing. Like let's say your business is failing and you feel terrible deep inside. You feel anxious, you feel stressed, you don't know what's going on. So what do? You drink alcohol. The problem goes away for now, and then you feel better. And then when the alcohol goes away, now the problem is back. So what do? You drink more alcohol, and that doesn't solve your problem. And that's like kind of like what a lot of medication for, like if you're depressed and anxious and you just take medication or like whatever it is that you feel. And if the reason you feel it is because your life isn't in place, then it's not going to solve your problem. You're just going to stay on medication forever, and your life is still going to be shit. Again, I've used this example before, so it's like, I'm not. This is just an example for what I mean. Like, not everybody who takes medication it falls in this category, but like there's the lottery. Like if you win the lottery, it solves your financial issues. But if you aren't someone who makes $1 million, you're probably not going to manage the money very well. You're probably not going to stay in touch with inflation, investing, savings, whatever. It's going to be great. Obviously, the lottery is much more beneficial than medication, like because it's a very measurable problem that you have. But if you don't have all of the knowledge about finances, it's gonna run out, and you're gonna be back where you started. It's just gonna take longer for it to run out because there are, $1 million is a lot of money. Okay, and also because you can still you don't need to work for that, whereas in the other situations you still need to work to pay off expenses, and you can solve your low class hierarchy of needs. What are the examples that I use? Relationships, yeah. So if you feel bad, sometimes you're just desperate for a relationship. But if you're desperate for a relationship, it's not actually going to fix your life. Like you're outsourcing the solutions for what the problems in your life, as if you think a relationship is going to fix it. You have to fix yourself first before you can have a relationship that's actually going to be healthy for both parties, where both everybody lifts each other up. Now, you don't have to be perfect. You can continue working and trying to be a better partner in the relationship, but you can't just feel terrible and be desperate for a relationship expecting it to fix your life, and everything's gonna be sunshine and rainbows. Because you look at people with relationships on social media and you go, look how happy they are, or whatever. I guess as an example, what other examples did I write? Painkillers for poison. Like if you're poison and you go, this fucking hurts, you need an antidote. You don't need painkillers, right? So that's another example I wrote. Let me see. Do I have anything else? I guess like some of the transgender community, like if you your social life is weird or you feel weird about your body, and then you hear people who say, yeah, I felt these things and then I transition and everything is sunshine and rainbows, maybe you'll be inclined to go through the transition without actually, having sufficient evidence to say that you're transgender, because you have a certain set of feelings and other people say they had those symptoms and this was their solution, and you just go, oh yeah, that must solve it, and maybe my life will be fixed. But a lot of the time, the people who go through the transitions also had depression, they had anxiety before, and it was kind of like it was maybe either like a placebo effect, or maybe it was just a distraction from their real problems in a number of cases. I don't know the statistics, but I know for a fact that does happen. Anyways, so those are the examples I wrote down. Okay, next is the next note I wrote. Okay, so these are notes I wrote down while listening to 101 essays that will change the way you think, just so you know. So it is based on that. So next is suffering is the resistance to pain. So we can choose, this is quoting the book, we can choose whether or not we suffer. We don't necessarily choose whether or not we feel pain. Suffering is just a particular resistance to pain. And nowadays, a lot of the time, we think that, or when I say we, I mean as a society, with the way the society is developing, in the first... What the fuck was that sound effect? Huh? Did something break? Okay. Well, so a lot of like what first world problems are, I guess, is, or like the way you hear people complain is, we act as though a feeling that we would prefer not to feel is a feeling that we should not have. Again, a feeling that we would prefer not to feel is a feeling, we act as though it's a feeling we are not supposed to experience. So, like, I mean, it speaks for itself. This quote speaks for itself. But if you think about it, like, if you don't like rain, it's just part of the cycle. Like, you can't feel happy if you're never sad. Like, it's relative. So, like, you can never think of a roller coaster. You can never have the feeling of the drop in a roller coaster if you didn't go up in the first place. You would have nowhere to drop from. And the same way is, like, if you can only go up a certain amount before you have to go back down. So, ups and downs are relative. The weather is a cycle. Your emotions are a cycle. And nowadays it seems like the Western society, in general, doesn't seem to, not everyone, not most people, but like in terms of some of these people, like the direction we're heading is a direction where these people don't want to accept that sometimes there's going to be negative feelings. Okay, so here's another quote. The universe whispers until it screams, which basically means, like, if you get fired, usually there's a series of clues leading up before the sudden moment. If you get, maybe you didn't pay. If you're in a toxic relationship, usually there's it's not like there were no clues that the relationship should end before the relationship ended. But basically, it's like when big events happen, usually there are small clues that maybe you didn't notice before. Now, if you get in a car accident, maybe it's not the same. Anyways, that's just the quote. That's all I wrote on it. Let me see. We try to give things we think we need in the desire for reciprocation. Okay, so this quote made me. It's largely talking about relationships, but this quote made me think of the other quote by, or not quote, but this made me think of the love language by some other guy. I can't remember the anyways. It was by some dating dude on Diary of a CEO, where he wrote a book which talks about it, which basically is like you show your love in different ways, and it's you show your love in the way you want to receive love, and so that's what your love language is. So for example, the guy's wife, I think, would always want gifts because she equated gifts as a way to receive love, because her parents gave her gifts to show their love for her. So when he didn't give gifts to her, she didn't feel loved. But he had his own love language, which is he felt loved when she did X, and so he would show his love for her by doing X. So there was this disconnect where he wants to show his love for her in the wrong way, because she feels the love in a different way, and the same vice versa. So yeah, it's like when we think about what we want, we try to receive it by giving it in the expectation or hope that they'll give it back, and thus we get what we want. And my personal mistake, the place in which I fail with this, that I kind of have difficulties with, is when trying to carry conversation. It's like I want to get them to talk more, and so like when they don't talk, I feel like in order to get them to talk more, I try to talk more, and then in the end I just end up talking too much, and then I fail to get the situation where I get to listen to the things I want to hear. That's my mistake in conversations. So like, if the conversation, like if they're not really like taking the initiative to talk, I'll try to like figure ways out to talk more. It's not optimal. It's not the way to carry conversations, but it is the mistake I make. And that's my personal example of this. Different people have different examples, but yeah. So again, we try to give things that we think we need or want, by in the hopes that it'll be reciprocated, that thus giving us what we want. Okay, mistakes. Okay, I don't even remember I plan to listen to this book one more time because it's just very thought provoking. But this was just a list of mistakes we make, which is one of them was arguing with someone who is arguing for ego and to prove themselves right, and not for the purpose of understanding, because it's like that's basically what it is on the internet. It's very easy to fall into the trap of it. I've done it occasionally. I always try my best to catch myself as soon as I do, which is often not that fast, but it gets faster. It's very easy to fall into this mistake of arguing with people. I mean, I also make the mistake of arguing for the sake of being right, because I know that I'm not going to understand the other party, and I also know they're not going to understand me. It's a waste of time. I don't know why it's so easy to do, but yeah, very common mistake. Happiness is not a high. It's not like that's a temporary but being happy is a feeling of inner peace with circumstances, with life. You're okay with the way life works, the way your life goes, the direction, so that you can it is the anchor to your reality that you're happy to come back to as quickly. It's not this euphoria from partying or whatever. That's not, happiness. Okay, I'm gonna stop it here today. But I don't remember what it was that I cut the video off at yesterday that I was going to talk about today. Let me see. I'll check that out.